Welcome back to the channel. We're going over the S&P 500, the NASDAQ 100, exactly how we're moving, what happened today, and everything you need to be looking at going into tomorrow. So it was a pretty big day, and there's a lot of big statements, and we need to get to them. But before we do that, I recommend you consider liking and subscribing because I'm giving you the videos every single day you need to know based on the stock market and how to trade going into the next day and the news as well. But let's not waste any more time. Let's get to it.
Would you say that the war in Ukraine is the primary driver of inflation in America?
No, inflation was high before, certainly before the war in Ukraine broke out.
I'm glad to hear you say that. The Biden administration seems to be intent on deflecting blame, and as recently as just this past Sunday, spread the misinformation that Putin's invasion of Ukraine is the, quote, biggest single driver of inflation. I'm glad you agree with me that that is not the truth.
Now, I wanted to go over that video first and play that little bit of a clip for you so you can see that I'm not crazy, making things up in a big bear on the market. That's Federal Reserve Powell, and he's stating his opinion on the market, and he's stating that inflation climbed from 1% to 7% without Ukraine, and then from 7 to 8, whatever it is, 8.6% right now after Ukraine was mentioned. It seems like it was going a lot more rapidly before Ukraine ever was even mentioned. Now, I'm not saying it has no part to do with it, but I'm saying you have to admit what's there. But let's get into this. So that's a pretty big statement as well that I want people to understand. Now, as we get in here, as we look at SPY, I want to go to the 15 minutes so you can see the past, the week trading so far and the past 2 days going into last week. Minimal volume again happening in there, and going into the day, breaking news, there wasn't too much crazy volume. Before we go into anything as well, we're going to go right into Bookmap, and I'm going to show you my opinion on this as well. Now, very similar movements to yesterday, in my opinion. Shockingly similar. Very, very much the same type of price action. This right here marks market open. Again, boom, you're just straight shooting back up. Now, I want to mention yesterday I did come out and I was like, look, I expect downside in the market. I expect us to continue to slip. That's what I see happening. Now, if you look at market open today, what happened? You ended up gapping down from that open, 374, down to roughly 370. Then you bounced back up. Now, we got the opening that we wanted. We got some profits early in the mornings, but we didn't get the continuation that we wanted. So if you had puts overnight, congratulations, you played out, you did good. But we got that, again, upward movement once again into Powell speaking. After he spoke, market died down very much, was kind of a bear fest going into the end of the day. Now, so this is the end of the day, 2 o'clock power hour starts, boom, nothing but downside. Now, going back into Bookmap, showing you this volume, what I want to talk about. Ignore the top side for a second. What we're actually going to do is focus on this green line right here. This is your CVD. You can see it was positive in the morning, came back down to negative around lunchtime, stayed kind of positive. You moved up without very much volume at all, and then boom, downside into the day. Extremely similar to yesterday's movement. Again, bigger buy orders in the beginning of the day, a little bit to nothing near the end of the day. This is the same type of price action, once again, that we were seeing yesterday. And guess what happened? The same type of sell-off. It was a little bit stronger at the end of the day, and you can see us breaking through those levels, and it's looking like, the next level that we're coming down to, 37.5 on ES SPY futures. Now, going into SPY, what am I looking at? I want to be completely transparent, and I'm go over some of the trades that I personally was looking at today and the trade that I'm in overnight. So I did end up getting some SPY puts overnight right here. I traded SPY near the whole power hour to the downside, took profits on those. That hit pretty great. Before that, we were trading NVIDIA, made profits on those, and then I have some CarMax puts as well, and we also, there's NVIDIA right there, and that's what I personally was trading today. But going to the end of the day, you're going to ask yourself, Tyler, why would you close your SPY puts to grab more SPY puts? Well, where's the logic in that? Now, let's talk about exactly what happened. So we had weeklies going down because we saw that coming, right? We saw more downside coming, and then I was suspect you to get one of these double bottom bounces. You bounce right there. We got in about up here, and that's kind of how you were trading back down. Now, so I suspect downside coming into tomorrow. Now, specifically where I'm looking at, I'm going to be transparently clear with you. I think you're at least going to hit this weekly level around 372, but I'm also looking for a double bottom around this region as well. That's where I'm looking. So 1 and 2, those are my 2 price targets on the swing overnight, and those positions are July 1st exits or strikes, if you will. So that's the expiration July 1st on those. I don't feel comfortable holding something like a weekly overnight. I just don't want to hold that. I get it. You can make more money, but that's just me personally. Reduce risk and have the best reward possible. Now, not the best reward in this case. However, I do like holding those a little bit better. Just less risk overall. I think the downside was about $200 tops in that position. So that's what we're looking at right now, more downside. So I'm looking for a liquidity push down here. Going over to NASDAQ, how are we moving over here? What's going on here? As we look at NASDAQ, you broke below that daily level here at the end of the day, and you're kind of trending here at VWAP. And we knew VWAP was going to be a level that you had to watch, right? So what we were looking for here on Power Hour, come down to the week, the daily, you bounced, boom. Now you're going right there sitting at VWAP. You break VWAP, it's going to be very bad in my opinion, and you will be tracking back down towards this weekly, which is down here around 11.25, 11.27. So this is what I'm watching for right now. Can we get below VWAP in the after hours? And are we going to start pushing down to 11.3, 11.25? That's it for NASDAQ. So you're definitely weakening across the board. Going over to VIX. VIX has been looking decent. So we mentioned it yesterday. We mentioned it was very low, even though you were going up on SPY and on NASDAQ and all futures, you were going up, but VIX was barely moving. It was going down, but just very slowly sitting at around 30. Then this morning, what happened? You gapped up to 31.5. And then what happened again? You came back down. You kind of been trending a little bit sideways, and this is where you're at right now. You can actually see a middle of the day gap right here, or actually, sorry, not middle of the day, but right at market opened. This is where this happened, and usually those do get filled. So keep that on your radar as well. So what am I looking for right now? I am looking for a press back up, filling this gap on VIX. If VIX does end up pushing below this previous level right here, I would assume that you do get a push down to 24, which would inadvertently say that the market most likely either chops and goes to the upside. So I'm going to be looking at VIX tomorrow. It's going to be a pretty big indicator here, but every other indicator, in my opinion, is pointing for more downside. Really quick, you can see junk bonds, right? So the junk bonds are one of the big indicators that pointed to our last overall push back up. So you saw for 2 weeks, 3 weeks, we really stayed up here. If you look at the spots when you set at 407, this is what happened. You sat in this trend and then boom, you shot up. Same type of trend. This looks a lot more bearish. It's a bearish pennant, obviously, and it's looking like you're trying to break to the downside. So junk bonds start slipping to the downside. In my opinion, that's your bearish breakout on all indexes. Junk bonds are a very big sign of a risk on and risk off environment. And if you break down, that means that no one wants a risk asset in the market. That would mean the indexes start to pull down as well. Going over to the dollar futures, what's happening there? Near the end of the day, you're seeing it once again, basically since the market opened at 950, well, 830 is that market open. Obviously, you come down 950, you make a bottom, and then boom, you're going up all day. What is that about? It's about inflation, people. It's about the data being given to us. It's about what Powell is saying, because everything he said was bearish for the economy. It was bearish. It was totally incentivizing what's happening with inflation. He totally called out the White House. He called out everyone that's been lying to you to your face. These are all indicators you got to be watching because they're all playing out perfectly before us. The only one that doesn't look the greatest would have to be yields. But yields are just consolidating right now, in my opinion. You're just trending sideways, a little bit of downside, but ultimately you're definitely sitting in a high range of where you don't want to be if you are a bull. And if I'm looking at this specifically, you're sitting right at your previous highs, which again is a pretty big level and still is relatively bullish. The fact that you're holding those previous highs as well. These all point, in my opinion, to more downside on the market. And I don't mean to sound like a broken record, right? I really don't mean to. Now, when I see a rebound coming, I try to mention it and tell you guys how I see us trading and how I see us moving. But as of right now, I see more downside across the broad scale market. What trades am I looking at? I try to give you guys trades every single day. So let me break down exactly what I'm looking at. Obviously, the first one we already mentioned was SPY, and I don't want to spend too much time on this one, but SPY is looking pretty weak, and it's looking like you're definitely topping off once again. However, this will be confirmed if you break below that weekly, and it very much will be confirmed if you break below that low and start to break back down, coming back down to those previous lows around 362, 363. So looking here, what am I playing to the downside? Besides this, what am I looking at? The big position I still have is PayPal, and PayPal was a gimme. This level has been tested 3 times, 2 times today, 3 times in total. That weekly level, 1, 2, 3. Clear rejections every single time. If there's been a time that PayPal should have gone up, it should have been this week. You should have broke above this level, but you continue to look bearish, and you continue to want to slide. I like July 15th puts. That's for myself. I think those just give you more time, more options on the board, and that's just going to be the safest overall play. However, you can do something like July 1st. It's just a little bit more risky. That's my opinion on that. Next one's going to be KMX. This is the riskiest play I'm going to mention, so if you don't want to have any risk, don't touch this play. This is CarMax, and they have earnings on Friday. I'm giving you a quick visual of why I'm looking at them. Go to the 4-hour chart and just show you what's happened on their previous earnings. Now, if you look here at earnings right here, going into that, boom, first earnings call right here. Boom, immediate downside. Next earnings call, what happened? As we come in here, come back up right here. I wonder what happened the next day. Boom, major sell-off. Right here, what's happened on this earnings? Right here, nice little peak, and boom, major sell-off. Next earnings, this was one of your positive earnings going back to June 21st, 2021. Now, if you don't know, car sales are being hit across the board. And if CarMax ends up breaking this previous low that you have right here, this level I'm going to mention right here, sorry, it missed out on me. It's going to get catastrophic, to say the least. You will almost immediately drop down to 79, and if you break 79, it will be a pitfall down to roughly $60, $56, maybe even lower. That's what I'm looking at CarMax. Again, this is the riskiest play that I'm going to mention, but I just want to give people options. Number 2, it's going to be NVIDIA. I'm going to clean this up just a little bit so you can see. This is one of the day trades we had today. You got below here on the weekly, and we shorted it down here, and you're doing it once again. So as you look here, this is what I like to see. You are in a clear cut bear flag, people. Clear cut. Beautiful. You love to see it. You're chopping down, bear flagging. You break below this. Ultimately, what I'd be looking for is a break below 162 flat. Once you break this low here, you will come down to this range of 157. So for confirmation of this breakdown, you want to see a break of this low about in this region right here. If you break this low, you get below here on the chart. So you don't want to short up here. When you get below, retest, boom, you're riding it all the way down to 157, all the way down to 156.5. You're looking for a break of this level here. NVIDIA is looking very good. Now, if you don't break below that level, you're not looking for a position. Now, you guys know I had to mention the baby, the play, my favorite, the biggest one of all, Tesla. What we're looking for is a break below 702, and it's looking like you're going to get it, to be honest. I'm going to give you my kind of conservative target. It's going to be these 2 weeklies right here. I've been mentioning, I think I mentioned this yesterday as well. As you break down, you can see you try to push up, you continue to slip. And even with that run that you had on NASDAQ, Tesla couldn't get going. So I'm looking like Tesla is going to be a weaker play going into the next few days. And as you get below 700, it's going to be a quick slip down to 675, 674 roughly. And that's where I have us coming down to, this range down here. You can see consistently you come right through this range. You can see you just sliced it right through that there. You sliced it right through it here. There's no liquidity. There's no support in this region. So I'm looking for an almost immediate move down to the 670 region if you get below 700. I'd be waiting for a strong hold below 700, at least on the 15 minute to get that confirmation, and make sure you're below that 9 MA as well. But that is going to be it for the video. That's all I'm looking at on the day. Again, I recommend just watching and looking at these signals. If you look at Bitcoin, it's already doing it in the after hours right now, getting back below 20K, and it's going to start its descent once again for this weekend, most likely. More downside looks like it's coming. This is what I'm looking at. And again, don't force these plays. You want to get the confirmation. You want to get the confirmation of the downside on these indexes before you start to jump into any of these plays. So make sure you get confirmation. Don't just blindly run into these plays, because there is risk associated with every single trade. Make sure you're taking accountability for that.